Welcome to the Franchise Oz podcast, your inside edge on Aussie franchising. Views expressed by the hosts and guests of this show are general in nature, so please always seek independent professional advice before making any franchise or business investment decision. Hey, welcome back to the show. So if you're the type of person that has it in you to make a really big change and you want to bust out and do that, well, lean in because today's conversation is going to be awesome. It's with a guy who has a vast amount of experience in sales and marketing, all wrapped up in a very intriguing backstory. Mr. Matt Thorpe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, John. Good to be with you.
Excellent, mate. I know I gave you a pretty pumped up intro there, but the reason for that is you help thousands of small businesses within the gyms group. So one business owner with a couple of employees or just them work for themselves, how to rip up on the saw and get up and running with their sales and their customer engagement. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to be part of the gym's training program where new franchisees, big or small, that intend on being big or small businesses, do the mandatory 2-day training course. And I'm part of the second day where I speak to them about sales and marketing and also resilience in business.
Yeah, excellent. Now, I've sat in on that presentation in the auditorium. It's you certainly keep us engaged through your storytelling and through everyday application of the strategies, thoughts and ideas that you share and use. But there is a backstory to that. So give us the skinny on your backstory, mate. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I always start off my little intro at training has, what my business is, how long I've been with gyms, and that I had a previous occupation of 19 years. And it's on a slide, and it doesn't tell you what I once did. I've gotten everything from when I asked, well, what did you think I used to do for 19 years? So I've gotten everything from model to salesperson to auctioneer to, I quite like the model one. Every other occupation other than the one I once did, which was I was a policeman here in Victoria for 19 years. Started there at the age of 22 and finished up 19 years later, resigning at the rank of sergeant, and haven't looked back since joining the gyms group and starting my own franchise.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I mean, a lot of people are career changes from whatever they were doing. It can be a government job or non-government job into owning and running a franchise. But in your case, it's an institutional occupation with a lot of structure and perhaps quite high stakes at times. So was there a period of adjustment to get into the new gig and new business of running a lawn mowing business, and how'd that work?
Look, absolutely. Aside from the fact that I had never run a business before, John, I didn't even mow my own lawns. So I was going into a completely and totally world that I, had never been a part of. Sure, I'd like to, be out in the garden and dabble, but I'd never used a whippersnipper before. So I was flying blind from the word go. And I often got comments from friends saying, well, you'd be okay going out and starting your own business, gardening and lawn mowing and knocking on doors. But I always say this in training, and it's so true. There is no way that I would be where I am today, 8 years down the track, and with the client base that I have, and what I consider to be running a successful business, had it not been that I joined the gyms group and went into did the training. And one thing I failed to mention too sometimes in the delivery that I give at the training is that in that training week that I did, I got a phone call asking me to go in for an interview for a government job. And I was so enjoying the training that I was doing that I said, listen, I'll get back to you. And I rang 2 days later to say, look, no, I'm not interested anymore. To be told that, well, look, you were shortlisted and probably favourite to take this job. So I turned my back on a potential another government occupation to really just, throw it all in and have a crack at what I'm doing now.
Okay, so you've had to make a key decision. In those early days, were you having to wrap a lifestyle around your change? So, for example, like one aspect of doing what you now were able to do was you could set your hours, right? Which you definitely couldn't do beforehand. Yeah. So were you able to go, all right, well, today, I'm still learning how to whippersnip, still learning to mow lawns. I'm trying to figure this out. However, I've made a few bucks and I'm home and it's 4:30 and I'm about to go to the gym or about to pick up the kid, and I can lean into that part of it. That feels good. Was there those moments? Tell us about that.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I was so institutionalized with routine with the police force. I mean, they were shift work, so your hours were differing and all that. I remember it might have been very early on in my franchise career that my friends were going away for a weekend and said, "Oh, do you want to come away?" And we're leaving on the Thursday. I said, "Well, I can't because I'm working." And they said, "Well, hang on, this is your business. You can tools down anytime you want to, within reason, and come away and start, and later the next week." And I went, "Yeah, hang on, I can." Because in the police force, your leave was Sunday to the following Sunday. And I thought to myself, well, no, I can't take a day off during the week, or I can't finish early, because that's not what you did. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were days where early on that I often wondered, have I made the right decision? But it was worth it when you would see the income come in, or you would get, apart from the income, one of the things that drove me was the appreciation I got from my clients, the thanks, and then the relationships I've gone on to build and still am, friends with many of my past clients. Yes, there was a lot to change from going from, what I knew to knowing nothing. But I think I'm a person that really likes to learn, and you never stop learning running your own business. And that it doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter if you've got a background in gardening and you move into it, you are still learning how to run your business on a financial side and still learning educationally as well. So, the police force helped me a lot in regards to being able to engage with people and being motivated to, stay on time and these sorts of things, which are key in business. But I had to learn a lot on the run. And I still am.
Yeah, so learning is a continuum, no doubt about it. Look, I banged out a teaching degree fairly recently, mate, and the one thing I learned from doing a teaching degree is that I know absolutely 2/5 of stuff all, and we're always learning. So yeah, how's that for a bit of irony? But
that's the beauty of it. If you got to a stage in your life, any person out there that said, "Well, I know it all," or "Well, I want to stop learning," you're almost giving up. And at what point, then do you start to go, "Oh, well, if I'm giving up on learning or trying new things, am I giving up on life to some degree?" When I bought the franchise, Des Warren was my franchisor, and he said, lifespan of a gym is anywhere sort of between, 5 and 10 years to potentially greater on. Now I'm going into my 8th year. This is the second longest career I've had.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so you mentioned being a lifelong learner, which is, of course, terrific. But speaking of that, you've got your way into the auditorium. You run the sales training for the inductees at the gyms group every few weeks. There's about 100 or so pop in. So in my rough guesstimate, that would be about 1,500 or maybe 1,400 people a year come through. And you're tasked with the job of, really pumping them up and empowering them to move forward in their business. So how did that come about? How did you land at an auditorium?
Well, it's a funny story, because through gyms I was able to go on and do certificates 2 and 3 in horticulture. And that was something, you just said, I love learning. I said that too. So that was natural for me to want to go on and do to improve my business. And Des, who I mentioned earlier, he takes the horticultural sessions for the mowing division when they come in and do their training. And I filled in for him one day, and I got really good reviews and feedback. And the training department, and I did it a couple of times, and my reviews were quite strong. And the training department reached out to me and said, "Hey, listen, we've got an opening for resilience in business. Would you like to come out and give it a crack?" And I said, "Yeah, sure," because I really like engaging with people and telling my story. I got the slides sent to me and I played around with them. Then I went from resilience in business, which I still lecture in, to the art of sales. And then I've really made up my own. And the first thing I introduced myself as is a franchisee, not a franchisor, because a lot of the trainers hear from franchisors and not franchisees, not boots on the ground guys or girls who are out there doing it day in and day out. So that's the way I introduce it. And I think from then on, I've got a hook. They listen, they go, "Oh, hang on, here's a guy that's left a 19-year career, safe career, to go on and do something he'd never done before, and he's still running his own business." And bang, they're on the hook. And so that's the way I fell into it. And I've been going ever since. I think it's going on now 3 years that I've been doing it. And I love it because it gives me an opportunity to share my story, but also to listen to people's, background into where they've been and why their decision has been to go into a franchise. And it's often the same story. It's to change for a better life, more money or better money than they, money going into their pocket, lifestyle, didn't like their old job, didn't like their old boss, burnt out, or even people who have actually gone on to retire in their pre-existing career to go, well, no, hang on, I don't want to stop. So how's about I go and do something new? And that's great. It surprises me. I didn't think, and I'm sure this is across the board with all the instructors, the facilitators, I didn't think I would have this much influence on people or, for them wanting to go on. I got caught up with no less than 6 people on the training day just on Tuesday, just saying, thank you, your YouTube clip made me change my career. That speech and that that talk was amazing. So that I walk away with a great sense of, that's fantastic. But also to some degree, John, there's a bit of, God, I hope they do well because they've listened to me. And if down the track they go, oh, he was, full of it, or, there's some responsibility. So none of the stories that I talk about or relate to me are embellished. They're all factual, true, because I want them to know that, hey, yeah, I had setbacks and it's tough running a business. It's not all just holidays and days off and more money. There's some real hard work behind the scenes, as well as the day-to-day running of the business. But yeah, no, so that's the way I fell into it, and I love it. And I hope the strong reviews keep coming because, then they can't get rid of me.
So in many respects, and I found this in my previous career as a personal trainer, is that when you're coaching someone to do something, it really inspires you to want to be better at that thing yourself. So you want to be more mindful in the process. You want to be able to improve what you're working on whilst you're improving them. And you feel like you've been tasked with, it's a responsibility. Like you're the custodian of helping them get better, and you want to do that. And I'd say, looking at that, that's the situation you find yourself in now, being still boots on the ground, as you put it, and doing the job day to day, plus talking with franchisees who are going through a whole bunch of thoughts and feelings, and whilst they make the transition.
Yeah, a lot of the comments of the review, that we get sent at the end of it are, I had my hesitations until I heard Matt's story, or it's great to hear that Matt had setbacks in his career, but he's still there and doing well. So I really like to bring people in, engage with them, hear their stories as well as part of the training. Whilst I run a slideshow, it's more about, I find you get more out of people talking to them rather than talking at them.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so look, there's many aspects when you start the business, and let's talk about some of that day to day. You've told the trailer story. I'm just going to call it the trailer story. Let's just call it the trailer day, right? That's a day where you have a pretty crap day. Things just aren't working. So in your situation, from memory, you had a bit of strife back in the trailer and it all sort of got jacked on itself and so on and so forth. So how do people navigate through that day or that week when they're starting a business? Could be a day in, could be a month in, where they're sort of going, holy heck, this is tricky, but I need to move forward. I want to move forward for my family because I've made the change. So what would you say?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is to look at why the issue, whatever the issue was, how it presented itself, and then deal with it as quickly as you can. So in my case, there are 2 trailer stories, John. One being I got stuck in the laneway, and 2 where the door fell off or ripped itself off. It's about dealing with the now and moving on, and then working out, what went wrong and how do I avoid doing that down the track. But it's also about the support around you. So if you're having those days where you are, wondering, have you made the right choice, or you've had that poor week, then you need support around you. And that could be your family, your friends. It could even be your franchisor or your fellow franchisees. So I think support is the number one key, starting early and even, moving forward. My wife's a great sense of support, my family, my friends. So support really is the key. And then also stopping and going, well, hang on, I've chosen this for this reason. It might be because I want a better life for my family, or I want a better life for me, or I remember what it was like working for, a boss that didn't value me, or a corporate firm that didn't value me. So then you've got to take a step back and go, well, hang on, why am I here? That's right. That's why I'm here. And that will then continue to drive you and continue to move forward and continue to want to do better and improve. And I say this in training, there is no better feeling, John, than sending an invoice and getting it paid, knowing the money is coming to you. You've earned that. You've done a hard day's work. You've got the hard day's return. And it's not going to someone who sits back in a chair and says, do this, do that, and I'll take profits from you and you just pay you a measly wage. So going back, I would say the first thing is to deal with the now and what the situation is. Look at how you can avoid that in the future, but support is key. Leaning on someone who you can trust and is there to say, hey, I've had a really bad day or a really bad week. And then, of course, remembering why it is that you made the jump and to where you are.
Yeah, look, I'm speaking to a few people across the gyms group. It seems to me they hit a tipping point where they've gone out, they've done a bunch of jobs in a day or a couple of days, and then like they get the invoices coming in and they get paid, and they're like, oh, geez, I was outdoors, I was working, I was moving around, I was doing some moderate physical activity, and I just got paid.
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
There's a real sense of I've earned that dollar and it feels good. It feels good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about being able to value add. Now, it's a term that gets bantied around a fair bit, but in your view, what is value add? Like, what is the do value add and the be value add? So what things would you do, one or two things that are going to really value add to a customer in your business, and how would you have to be as well?
One thing I would, and I speak of this, is building a strong rapport with your clients. Now, some clients are there just to say, yep, you're just here to mow my lawn or do my garden and move on, and that's fine, and they don't want to make small talk. But I've got a great base of clients, all of whom I've got a rapport with, and some who's, I've built strong relationships with. Now, I've been invited to dinners with clients. I recently was invited to a wake of a partner of a client, birthdays, these sort of things, because you build the relationships with the clients, and it could be only small things like, remembering a birthday or bringing in their bins, doing these small things that perhaps in the past they'd never had that. And they say, well, this person's really enjoying their role and they like being here. They're doing a good job. I really want to start to get to know this person. Then you start talking football teams and families and these sort of things. They then trust you to then go on and say, well, hang on, I want to give this person more work, because one, I really appreciate the work that they do, but I really enjoy this person's company. You can see the effort they make in what he does. I very rarely now get asked for quotes on existing clients because they trust me, they know my work ethic, and they know that I put everything into it. So you need to be honest and you need to really enjoy what you do. If you're there for one reason, that is to make money, you won't succeed. There is no way that you will succeed if the only reason you're there is to get in, make some money and get out. In my opinion, I don't think you'll succeed. You might succeed for a short term, but then people will start to work you out and then they'll move on, and then so on. Word will get out that, you're just there to get in, get out, make a quick dollar. And that's not how I think the customer service industry should work.
If you're building that type of rapport and those sorts of relationships, doing that sort of work, that by every round of definition is a lifestyle job, and a very good lifestyle job at that. So it's all encompassing there. So that would be very sustainable, you would have to think.
It's easy to get up and go to work, John, when you like who you're working for, so to speak.
Yes, 100%. So there's a lot of good businesses out there that are service-based businesses, including lawn mowing, but it could be gutter cleaning, it could be fencing, it could be cleaning houses. If you follow a process and you're good at customer relations and you just do the job you say you're going to do and you're there on time, they tend to flourish. I'm just thinking, society, broadly speaking, indoctrinated this whole thing of you've got to go out and, finish your year 12, you've got to go to uni, get a uni degree, all that. Look, as someone who did a late uni degree, I've got no regrets, 25 grand hex set, whatever, still no regrets. There's really scope for just people to go, you know what? I like being outdoors. I like being in gardens. I like getting up on roofs and spraying the roof down. I like doing that type of work and it pays all right.
I had a conversation with a client the other day. My son, who's just finishing year 12, wants to go on and do an apprenticeship as an electrician. And my client said to me, he said, that's fantastic because it's probably one of those few trades, or one of those few industries that aren't going to be taken over by AI at some stage because you need people to do certain things. I think there's a lot to be said for service delivery, service-based occupations and businesses, because not only are we doing what we enjoy, we're giving back to the clients some time for them to go off and do what they enjoy. So people are so busy these days with family commitments, with their own businesses or their own occupations, that on the weekends that they get, most would rather enjoy spending with their families. For us, I see it as a, we're almost doing a duty by giving back the time for the people. I think back in the day, I imagine that people who do what we do now in the service delivery business and in the franchise industry were probably looked upon as, well, they're just, they can't make $1, or they're just, they didn't go to uni. Some of my friends who run very successful businesses or who are in very highly paid jobs didn't go to university, or if they did, are doing completely opposite to what they went and studied at university for. Now, I never went to uni. I never went to TAFE. And I think I'm doing pretty okay with my business. So.
Yeah, 100%. Look, it is those jobs that require physical manipulation that are going to be the least affected by AI. So if you're someone who goes out and moves things and does things with your hands, you're probably in a good place. If you're a paralegal at the moment, probably start looking around. That's all I'm saying. Just have a pivot strategy. That's all I'm saying.
I might see more in the franchise trading sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. Watch this space. Let's see what happens there. Yeah. There are certain jobs and tasks that just feel good though. So I find, for example, and I don't want to harp on it too much, but like when I get out and mow lawns and get on the brush cutter and stuff and pick up leaves, like it gets me out of my head and I feel good. And I think honestly, it's going to sound woo-woo, but I think that's to do with getting out in nature. It 100% is. Like I have better thoughts when I'm doing that. If I'm having a day and I'm a bit sluggish or something's going on, I get out on the whippersnapper or lawnmower, or I manually start picking up leaves and I'm feeling all good and robust again. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I often take a step back on clients' houses or lawns and gardens that I've just finished to look back and go, geez, that looks so nice. I did a job today and the client just said to me, oh my God, they've just moved into their house. Their lawns hadn't been done for a while. We spent a couple of hours there doing their lawns and she just couldn't be more happier. She's got the weekend now just to enjoy her space. The invoice was paid straight away. That's where you know that someone's just so grateful. They haven't sat on it. They just thank you so much. But yeah, look, working outdoors, getting away from the hustle and bustle of whatever it is that you might have done in your previous life or even your day job, that I think says a lot. I mean, yes, there's that sense of, well, you don't work, you don't earn. But that's not why I've decided, I need to get up and work. I generally get up and go, yep, I enjoy what I do. And you know what, John? The day just goes. In my previous occupation, there was a lot of clock watching. Can I go home now? Is that the time? God, I've still got 3 hours to go. Often I'll pull in and go, my God, where did that day go? That's to do with, one, the amount of work that I might do in a day, or two, the time I have speaking with clients. But I can't believe how quick the days actually go when, doing what I do. I'm pretty sure that's probably similar for a lot of people in, different divisions and different occupations that they thoroughly enjoy.
Fantastic. And good on you for carving out a good lifestyle business as both a person on the tools mowing lawns, but also someone that can impart knowledge and help move other people forward in their businesses as well. That seems like a good balance.
Yeah, and I think that the day I stop enjoying what I do, or believing that it's not worth doing, that's when I pull away and say, look, I can't do any training anymore. But I can't see that happening.
Yeah, cool. Now, this video is not a sales funnel for gyms. It's just a chit chat about guys looking at ways to improve and do better, guys, girls. But I found watching some of those videos, there's a plethora of them now on YouTube, thousands literally, that if you're in the process of change, they're quite motivational, inspirational to watch in their own right. So my hot tip would be, if you're someone who wants to do that, get on and watch some of those videos. Have you got any sort of tips or add-ons to that, Matthew?
How many people are changing their careers just by jumping on TikTok or YouTube or whatever the case might be, running podcasts and whatnot, talking about what they love and what they do? Yeah, it can be very scary jumping from something that you're feeling comfortable in to something that you know nothing about or you know little about. But there are plenty of success stories out there, and I'm sure there's a few failures too. However, I like to stay on the positive, and there's things popping up on my Instagram all the time. This new guy's doing this or this new girl's doing this with their career. And I watched a guy the other day, totally separate from our service delivery, John, but industry. He left a job in real estate to continue his barbecuing and talking about meat. So, he's a young bloke and he's just decided, no, that's his passion. He's had good support and he's made the jump. I think the greatest regret would be to sit there and not know what would have happened. You know, there's always that common theme is, I wish I did it earlier. It doesn't matter with gyms or whatever it is in life that you want to try out and get out and achieve or try. The biggest regret you'll have is if you never try and sit back and go, what if?
Well spoken, well put. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I better upgrade my Zoom, Matt, because we've been having this conversation for 40 minutes. So I better wrap it up.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you very much for being on the program. And people can find you on Instagram and see your videos on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I'm Jim's Mowing Hampton Bayside on Instagram, and YouTube. I've just done a few videos with Joel Clever from the Jim's group, day out on the road. But, yeah.
Excellent, mate. Well, I hope it all keeps going well for you, and all the best for helping people move into their businesses and franchises. And thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Bye now.